Hello.
Hello. Excuse me while I kick these shoes.
It's going to stink in here.
It's not. I literally took a shower right before I came. These socks are clean.
Them shoes weren't clean when you put your feet in them.
Bitch. My feet don't stink. I hope they do. I hope it smells like Fritos.
You don't have dog paws.
This is true. Anyways, how's it going? How is everyone?
Hello. How are you? My throat still hurts. I don't know why. It's like this every time we record. I'm like, for like 2 weeks, I'm just like, oh, my sinuses, my face hurts. And then as soon as we start recording, they're like, time to evacuate.
Yeah. Hey, it's better than your bowels deciding it's time to evacuate.
It did that last night. That was awful. We had Domino's. I'm going to have PTSD about that for a while. I'm traumatized. But we did have lava cakes, and those were good.
Have you tried any of the foot-long sidekick
I have
things
not.
So I got a pretzel one day, and it was not great. It was not soft. It was. I'm upset. I almost said offended, which reminded me.
What?
This has been the week of Chelsea being offended. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to trivia at our local spot.
Yeah.
And we were not aware of how young the little host dude is. I think I might have already told you this.
I don't think so. We didn't really get a chance to talk this past week.
It's been a crazy week at work. Anyway, so little host dude was like, the question was, what was the highest selling album for the band NSYNC? And I'm sitting here like, why did he just spell it? And everybody's like, NSYNC, and he's like, I don't know who that is. Excuse me. And somebody's like, you don't know Justin Timberlake? And he was like, I didn't realize he was in a band. What? Excuse me. And then I found out that the kid was born when we were in high school.
Ooh.
So I'm immediately offended. I was like, we have to go. I'm never coming back. Like, this is, I am so offended. I've never felt so old.
Let me see. What did I post to my story earlier? My Instagram story. Hold on. It says, please be patient with me. I'm from the 1900s.
Right. Yes. And then somebody at work compared me to another person at work. And I was quite offended.
I was going to say, is it somebody you like?
I mean, I don't dislike this lady. She's just very inquisitive and asks a million questions, which I also do. But this lady, like, I don't know. She's very extra. She's like the only other person that works in the state of Tennessee with me. So,
a friend of ours shared on Facebook, I ain't never met a problem I couldn't make worse.
Right. Facts. And then the third thing that I was offended by, I can't even remember. It literally happened last night. I don't even remember, so we're just gonna not talk about it because I don't remember what was said about it and why I was so offended. But I found a new thing at Sonic, and I don't think it's a new thing because I vaguely remember it being on the menu a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But the lady, I saw it on TikTok. It's called a Sonic Sunrise. Do you remember those?
That sounds familiar.
It's cherry limeade with orange juice. I saw it and I was like, I gotta have this right now. It literally went last night. Oh my gosh. It is so good.
That doesn't sound good.
Oh, it was so good.
But I don't care for cherry limeades anyway.
Why are we friends?
I don't know. I like the strawberry ones.
I don't like.
I like it when chunks of strawberry get in the straw and try to choke me.
No,
I suck it up and I go.
No, I don't like that. It's the texture for me.
They do get mushy in there.
Nope.
We should put them on a stagecoach. Anyway, my hot take.
Stop it with the stagecoach. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
So my hot take for this episode is controversial at best.
What? Wait, that was a fruit on the stagecoach, not necessarily a mushy strawberry. Okay.
I don't know. I saw more than you did. It's a mushy strawberry. So I'm going to talk about everybody's beloved Lainey Wilson.
We're going to fight. Last episode, we literally just talked about how we don't fight. This is it. This is my 13th reason. Okay.
So I'm kind of nervous.
You should be, because I'm about to get real defensive.
Okay, and it's not because I don't like her or music or whatever. So I changed this yesterday because it did say something else.
Are you talking about our dump truck?
No.
Okay.
No.
Don't offend me with talking.
So yesterday I'm scrolling through TikTok or Reels or whatever, and there's a video of her. She was on a podcast. Just sounds like casual conversation, like what we have, like with our accents. Okay.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
However, because I was like, what is this? What is this accent? This is normal. This sounds normal Southern. Sometimes her accent sounds like somebody who's trying to make fun of a Southern accent. It's too thick. It's too laid on. It sounds too fake. And that is my hot take.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
Well, it's like, because before it was like, what is this accent? Who is she making fun of? Where was she born? But because I heard her like just casually speaking on a podcast, I was like, who is that? That's a totally different accent. I was like, that sounds like just a Southern accent. The other one, I don't know who she is. No, I never heard of her. Who is that?
I'm so offended.
Tell me. It does not sound like somebody.
I mean, I hear what you're saying.
It's like if a British person is like playing a Southerner on a TV show.
But also, so
exaggerated the accent is.
Let me put it this way.
See, I knew. I was like, this is going to be a hot take.
Let me put it this way. So this is my normal accent, you know? Yeah. And to me, I don't think we sound super Southern.
But if I get like drunk, it's thick. But
like we don't hear it.
No.
But like because I have to make calls to people in New York for work.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times I'll get some kind of
but that's the thing.
Somebody will say something about it, and I'm like, I just don't hear it. But
normally I don't notice a Southern accent unless it's like sounds like a guitar that popped out of Loretta Lynn's asshole.
What I will tell you, though, is I did not realize. So the job that I had years ago, where it was a call center environment, I had one person that would call in that was from Texas.
I have now looked up where she is from.
She's from like Oklahoma, is she not?
Louisiana.
Okay.
So that makes a little more sense.
I don't know where I got Oklahoma, but whatever. Anyway.
It's a town of only 250 people.
Okay. But anyway, so there was this one guy that would call in on a normal, and I talked to him quite often. He was in Texas, and he had a very thick, but
that's
accent.
A different
But
accent.
I hear you. But apparently, and I didn't notice that I did it, my accent would get so much thicker.
Oh, yeah.
When I would talk to him.
Well, it's like...
And it depends on who I'm around.
Yeah.
And
for
how,
sure.
And I don't do it intentionally. I'm not trying to put anything on, but it just...
I get it. Because, like, whenever my sister lives in Florida now, and, like, the first time they came up after they'd lived there for a while, it was, like, almost a year, close to a year-ish. I'm sitting there talking, and her now husband leans over and whispers, did her accent get thicker? But that's because...
They're not used to it.
Well,
anymore.
Also, Daniel's mom is cornbread. And I was working with her 4 days a week. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's why my accent got thicker. But I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she's not faking that accent. But like at the Grammys, why you sound like that?
We're fighting. Just to let you know, after you hit finish recording, I'm flying across this room.
Hey, first rule about Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club.
I'm flying across this. Anna, look at me. It's going down.
And I'll just be like, we can only do this if we do it on a stagecoach.
I can't stand you. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Anyway, hey, I wanted to, and I meant to ask you between episodes.
Uh-huh.
So, in our last episode, you were talking about one of your stories and something was mentioned about a congressman.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to vaguely talk about that?
So that was my next. That was my next hot take.
Okay, we'll talk about that the next episode.
Well, we can go ahead and mention it here, and then we'll just leave because I got 2 other things. But the last thing on this list is for this episode. Before I start reading my notes, but so
we can save it. We can save it if it's going to take away.
It's not. It's fine.
Okay.
So, my next one was when someone who ruined your mental health and well-being, continuously putting your life at risk for a solid year, is now running for a political office, and they have absolutely no business to be doing so.
I cannot wait. Cannot. I'm
going to sue for loss of enjoyment.
For those posts to start hitting the community pages.
But I will say, be careful. Because he is sue happy.
Oh, I know.
But
I cannot wait.
It's not slander if it's true.
It's not me. It's not. People are going to dig into you as a person.
Oh, yeah.
But I will tell you, I've done a little bit of digging on my own, and a couple of those DUIs, I don't know why I put that in quotes, a couple of these DUIs have disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but
when you have multiple DUIs,
mm-hmm.
you've been arrested for public intoxication,
mm-hmm.
you have, by my own flesh and blood father,
mm-hmm.
have been physically removed, like had to be drug out of public establishments because of your drunkenness.
Yeah, he's been
while
banned.
Your pregnant wife, by the way, your pregnant wife, your wife and 3 children are not hiding the fact that you were playing with dill pickles prior to.
Also, he found love. When I saw that, it sent me. He found love
with someone that he hated and wanted nothing to do with.
Yes.
And wished would go away.
He's a family man now, Chelsea.
I
was sitting on the couch when he asked her to get an abortion.
Sent me. I am so glad that, like, when I saw that, I called everyone.
My sister, like, she went to the website and she's like, she said, I'm at the post office, so I just, like, skimmed it. She was like, he has kids?
3.
I said,
3.
Yes, I said, there are 3 of them. And I told her,
I'm just going to say this. Part of me feels bad because if he puts this out there and gets as public with it as what he can, part of me feels bad for the wife. But again, part of me thinks that she knows his whole life is about to get drug out. It's about to be put out into public.
But the problem is she doesn't know about me.
You won't even come up.
No. But see, and what I'm afraid of is because of how charming he is.
I'm just embarrassed for her, for everything that's about to hit the fan. And I feel bad for the children.
Yeah.
But, like, she's been with him for how long now?
Yeah.
And
not as long as you'd think.
Well, no. But, and I'm sure that he hasn't told her half the things that are probably about to get drug out.
No. And if it's asked, he tells her, oh, no, that didn't happen. They're making it up.
I also want to know, because his website also stated that he helps in the community. What is he doing? Driving the roads drunk and putting people's lives at risk?
Exactly.
Because that's all I've seen him do.
Yeah.
What I mean, by all means, if he's doing something to help the community, and I don't know, good on you, sir.
Good.
But
I know you're a piece of shit.
Community service that is mandated by law, by court, doesn't count.
No.
Sniffing the farts out of sheets at a nursing home
don't count.
As community service, or working at the dump, or picking up trash on the side of the road, that doesn't count.
No, if a judge told you had to do it, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But, like, this is the same man who we were at I would say a bar in West Nashville area, and he was so upset with me because of something that happened to me also that I was talking about. And I told somebody he felt I shouldn't have told. So this man in public berated me to the point that another man that was sitting nearby told him he needed to chill out. And then I still took him home. The entire time he's screaming at me, the entire, I would say, 30, 35 minute drive. on the highway, I'm doing between 55 and 60. He's trying to open my car door and jump out.
I would have let him.
I should have. If I knew then what I know now. So this is when like my rose-colored glasses started to come off. Was this incident in particular? And let me tell you, he berated me for a couple of months about this situation. So we get to his house, and I've been yelled at and screamed at and threatened to jump out of my car and let me run him over for 2, 3, 4 hours, however long it was. And it pushed me to the point where I got to his house, I got him out of the car. He's standing in his driveway still yelling at me. And I haul off and slap him in the face. Guess what he said? Do you remember this?
Vaguely, but I don't remember what he said to you. Is this when he called
Pushed
you
me?
No, it wasn't.
No, pushed me to the point that I had to react because this was just getting too much. Be too much.
You as listeners don't know, it takes a lot to get her to that point.
And
She'll shut down. She'll shut down in silence for months before she gets reactive.
Well, as soon as I slapped him, he looked at me and was like, I should call the police on you. You always resort to violence.
Bitch, I wish you would.
First of all, that was the first time and only time I ever hit him. And you had been screaming at me for something that was minuscule. This episode has went to
this episode is brought to you by
my PTSD
trauma,
because where I'm at now, it took a lot of work to get here. I would say up until 6 months ago, I had nightmares about this man. Like, I would wake up in cold sweats because in my nightmares, this man is chasing me, hunting me down, looking for me. Because to him, now, I've fallen off the face of the earth.
Have you, though?
I have not spoken to him.
Well, he has fallen off the face of the earth for you.
Yes.
But are you living rent-free in his head?
Yes.
I hope so.
Because
I hope so.
I did not have his wife's Facebook account blocked until I would say about 2 years ago. It's crazy that this was 2 years ago already. Like, maybe, I think it was 2 years ago. I still have the screenshot somewhere, but gets on his wife's Facebook. First of all, the audacity to do that. And to be like, I just miss you. Add me on Snapchat. I don't know what happened other than we just drifted apart. Excuse me. I read it, deleted it, and blocked her Facebook account.
I would have too.
And then I went and blocked all of his friends' Facebook accounts. The only and every member of his family that I could find, except for his younger brother.
Which,
and I did that purposefully. Because if he ever asks his brother, can you find her on Facebook? And it shows that we're still friends on Facebook. And I left his wife too, because I felt like that was kind of icky if I didn't keep his wife as a friend and block her and not him. I felt like that, even though we don't talk, it just felt kind of weird. So, but I think the time is coming where I might have to do both.
I don't think so. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, because I don't know that they speak. I don't know that they speak.
He was always so upset because everybody said that his younger brother was the cute one.
Which he is.
He was just the more...
And he's more authentic.
He's the nicer one.
Yes, he's so nice. And he's authentic. And I would say he's a lot more genuine. He doesn't tell you things to sway you over to his side or to make you be friends with him. He's just a nice dude.
He just is who he is.
Yes. And he would complain to me that, everybody likes his younger brother better and da 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 da. And my sister, in an argument, because we had an argument because he gave his baby mama my phone number. for her to call if she ever needed anything. And I was like, I was like, you didn't ask me that. You didn't ask me if you could do that. And I was like, and you know the situation here. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, he got mad at me for that. And I was a bad friend. And I was a piece of shit. And, all this. Anyway, so my sister ended up arguing with him and told him, I understand why everybody likes your brother better. So, and of course that sent him off.
That, all I can see now is Allie sitting there. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Oh, yeah.
That was the gangsterest thing that Allie has ever in her life done.
And then he's like, well, all of you Patey women are just psychos and da-da-da, and I'm so glad I don't have to deal with y'all anymore and all of this shit. And Allie was like, you know what? The trash takes itself out. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
And she blocked him on everything for me. Well, then this little slug comes, well, I miss you, and da-da. It wasn't long after this that I stopped talking to him entirely. So, because this happened, I would say it was starting to get it was like fall time. Like his now wife was definitely pregnant. And they may have no.
You went and visited after the first child was born.
Well, yeah, because they had her, and then he was real sneaky about
D&D.
it. Well, it was weird because he was sneaky about it because he when they had the baby, they got married in the hospital room or something, and he never said a word to me until the last time I saw him. And he was like, yeah, we had to do it because, I wanted her to have my last name. And it's single, non-married couples do that all the time. You didn't have to get married.
Right.
This was something else. And you hid it from me. So, and by this point, I was already, I was done. I knew this was the last time I was ever going to see him. So, it's after Christmas, and this probably is not very good of me, but I specifically bought their daughter a Christmas present just so I could go over there and get my journal back that he had. Why I ever gave them that in the first place, I don't know, but I got it back.
You had it in your brain that was your person.
Yeah, I was convinced. But after taking off the rose-colored glasses, I'm so glad I dodged that firing squad because that's exactly what it was.
I just have a problem with the person that appears to try and be your friend, even have the audacity all these years later to send me a friend request. However, anytime I'd come hang out, the second that I left the room, would shit talk me. Yeah, every time. Or even he would call me because y'all work together, and he would call me and be like, well, she's doing this, and I'm like, I really don't care. She saved your ass on the job numerous times.
Right.
Anytime you'd get an escalation for a supervisor escalation, who sat next to you to feed you the information that you told the person on the phone? That would be me.
Right. I don't know if I ever told you this, but
I'm ready.
His mama, his mama got him that job, right?
Yeah. She had to save him several times because he came into work hungover or drunk. I got you.
And he smelled like a liquor store.
At least once a week.
So one time we were over at her house. It was it was for a football game or a hockey game or something. I don't know, but we were all over there. So before the game, we're all just kind of hanging out. She's finishing up some work things because she worked from home. Well, apparently something happened that day at work, and he looked at her dead in the eye and said, I'm your boss. You do what you're told.
Ha ha ho!
That woman stood up and said, you're the only reason why you have a job is because of me.
He was not her boss.
No.
Not even in the same department.
No. And she said, if you ever talk like that to me again, you will not have that job. So good try. And she said, and if you have a problem with it, you can leave.
Wow, the audacity.
Yeah. that was
audacity is strong with that.
See,
one.
that was when like the mirror started to shatter in a sense, and like the fog of, I don't know what a magic spell I was under. I have no idea.
It was the weed.
Maybe, I don't know. But like, I mean, even to the point that like when I had to put my cat Tom down, everybody's like, oh, well, maybe you should take him with you. And I already knew it was like this, I don't want this memory tainted because he's there.
Right.
I would rather go by myself, have a mental breakdown in that little office, take my little ass home and cry about it on my couch. But you know who showed up for me? Daniel. Daniel came over that night after working all day, brought me every Reese's known to man, and we just sat on the couch and watched TV and talked all night and ate candy.
See, what a
like
I want to say good memory, but it's not a good memory.
No, but it felt more supportive than what, like, he didn't even this guy didn't even offer to go with me, didn't offer to come over afterwards.
Let's not talk about the fact that when you were getting out of a very abusive marriage, and it was at the height even get me of started. The abuse, that he and a couple other of his friends, one of which was one of our friends, decided to go out of state to leave you alone.
Yeah. Like the week of
kicking this ex-husband
and they're all
out.
like, we're sorry, stay safe. And like we like had already arranged for him to come get his shit out of my house. So I had to call my mom and my sister to come sit with me. And of course, you know, my sister, she's trying to just play like, you know, both sides and just be a calming, like mediating factor. Which was nice. I think so, yeah. Because I think you still worked at the, And so, and that was nice. That was lovely. And it was a much smoother process. But like one of his cousins' wives was back here just talking shit about me. And we see her husband all the time at the grocery store every Monday. And I'm like, it is what it is. But yeah, and I do partially anyway. I can't give him the full blame because I played a role in it too. But like that friendship breakup that we had, like things were bothering me, and like I didn't want to speak up about them because, you know, if you know me, I got anxiety. And it's real bad, and I was unmedicated at the time. So like I'm not going to bring up and do like a confrontational.
Right.
And I think that this person saw that and took advantage of that. And like, so he started pitting us against each other. And like, he would tell me one thing and then go tell him another, until to the point that we hated each other.
Right.
And like I said, I need some space. And then like verbally eviscerated him. And I shouldn't have done that. Like, I regret that. Like, is
this the dickweed that we're starting this about, or is this the other one?
This is the old friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I feel like that was kind of just coming to its natural end.
That whole situation, it got bad. And I mean, we're all still somewhat on speaking. Like, I literally just called him tonight.
Yeah.
It was like literally a minute and a half conversation.
We're friendly.
Yeah.
But we're not
each other in public.
Like he didn't come this year, but he came last year to your Halloween party, and we were chit chatting, and you know, and it was fine. And I've apologized to him, you know, and I could probably stand to do it again, because I'm even further removed from that situation. But yeah, like none of that needed to happen, because it was literally like he had like group chats. This other guy, the shit ass, had like group chats with like us in it, but then he would like go and most likely show former friend all of this. And like, you know, this is the shit they're talking about you. Like, how do you feel knowing that they talk to you about you like this?
Right.
And then would talk about him the same way to us. And like, but like the last time I saw this man, this shit ass, by this point, I was already like, I know this is the last time I'm ever going to see this man. as soon as I leave here, I'm blocking his number. I'm blocking him on Snapchat. I'm blocking him on Facebook, everything. But by this point, I think he had deleted his Facebook. And, but I didn't get the wife. And I didn't block his best friend, which I should have. But I went over to his house to give his daughter my Christmas present for her. And it was cute. I got her like an outfit and a first Christmas picture for him. It was cute. She was cute. Even though she looks just like him, she is cute. But I got my journal. I stayed and hung out for a little bit, to make it seem like everything was kosher and nothing's wrong. And, like he left me alone with that baby, and I like just looked at her and I said, I'm sorry for who your father is. You had absolutely nothing of the type of person your father is. And then he came back and he was telling me, oh, well, none of my firsts with her have been like my first with you, and and all of this, and like trying to make me feel some type of way.
Stringing you
but
along.
On the inside, I'm like, this is giving me the ick. I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. So I made up an excuse, I gotta go do whatever. And I was like, I gotta go. So we go outside. He's smoking a cigarette. I had quit smoking by this point, which he told me he didn't believe I could do, for the record. So I had to do it just to prove a point.
Right.
But he said, okay, give me a hug. And I did not want to, but I did, just to make it seem like nothing's wrong.
Right.
And he like slowly slid his hand down my back and like grazed the top of my butt. And I was like, okay, bye now. And go get in my car, leave. Go straight home and get in the shower. I have never felt more icked out. I was like, that was definitely like the shift. That was it for me. I was like, I'm never speaking to this man again, because that was creepy and that was weird. And I don't know. It made me feel gross. And I was like, yeah, it's time to go. It's time to go.
Yeah.
And so I blocked him on everything. If he popped up on anything, I've blocked him, over, and this was like four-ish years ago. So I haven't spoken to him since, it's been almost exactly 4 years, I think.
Well,
because I haven't spoken to him since 2020.
I have not blocked him, so I just keep him unblocked as a means to be able to see the bullshit and relay the information.
Like, I'm not
petty, but I'm petty.
Yeah. So like back in,
I would say one of those episodes that we did not intend, but it's becoming a therapeutic episode for
so
you.
Like, and I was going to start a whole new podcast about this, but I can fit it in an episode. But like in 2020, I think it was 2020. It might have been it had to have been 2020. So before I had cameras everywhere around this house, somebody found my outside spare key and almost got into my house in the middle of the night when I lived here by myself. If it hadn't been for my old school chain lock, they'd have gotten in here.
Right.
Now, do I think it was just some random meth head in my neighborhood? No, absolutely not.
You don't think so?
No. I think it was one of two people. It was either him or it was my ex-husband. But I would bet money on it was him. But the next day, when I found my key out in the shed lock, for whatever reason, I'm glad they didn't take it. I changed the locks anyway, because he had a key to my house. And so I got all new locks anyhow.
Yeah.
But
you know who does have a key to this house? This bitch.
3 people. Me, you, and Daniel.
This bitch. Ooh, man, I feel super privileged.
But yeah. So
not even Isaiah?
No. I mean, I would trust him with a key, because like, what's he gonna do with it? But yeah. So after that, the next day I went and got all cameras, and I haven't had any issues since. I've only had I've had issues with the neighbors, but other than that, I haven't caught any strange people or people I just don't want in my life anymore. I haven't moved, so he knows where I live. He still knows where I live. I don't know if he did the same thing he did to our former friend and would drive past his house at all hours of the night.
Remember that one time that y'all had gotten into it and he sat in front of your house
at
revving
like
the motor?
3 a.m. He was mad at me and our former friend because they went to a Preds game together. And then the friend, it was a party that I asked to not happen because my granny was dying and I did not want to have a birthday party. But my ex-husband invited all of his friends over anyway. So, but our former friend wanted to come and hang out with me because he knew I was having a hard time. And this man did not like that and like chased him through my house and would not leave him alone. And then when we asked him to leave, everybody asked him to leave. He got in his little car and sat in front of my house. It was like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., laying on the horn. To the point that my neighbor across the street, I told our former friend, because she came out on our porch, I said, he's got to go because either she's going to call the cops on him or she's going to call the cops on him. And he went out there, talked to him, and he left. But,
remember that time, that night? And this was as I was removing myself from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all were all at that one particular establishment that my dad had to physically remove him.
Mm-hmm.
And those two got into it so hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to come down there.
Yeah.
And we took his keys.
Mm-hmm.
And he literally
had a temper tantrum.
Jumped up and down with a toddler tantrum in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And it was a whole ordeal.
Right.
Was that the same night that the two of them like got into a physical altercation?
Yeah.
Up the street? I thought so.
Well, it was across the river.
It was a whole thing. And then at one point, I peeled out of the parking lot for some reason?
Yeah, because
former friend said something
he
shitty.
said even though he was also shit tossed that he was going to drive. And you said, if either of you get in your cars and leave, I'm going to call the police.
Yeah.
And he called you a bitch. And that was when you left.
That's right. Because, I mean, granted, we call each other bitch. I call you a bitch all the time. But it's all in the tone
it's like,
that is
hey,
used.
bitch.
And he was not being nice. And that is something that he never did.
Yeah.
And we both had the understanding we don't talk to each other like that.
Right.
But he absolutely did. And I lost it. I peeled out of there. I was like, that was when I was done. I was like, don't call me when y'all are drunk anymore. Yeah. I don't need to know. Yeah. I'm not doing this. It was causing issues.
Yeah.
In several portions of my life. But
right. But like, he's shit ass is banned from that restaurant, that place.
Yeah. I mean, you can only get physically removed from an establishment because you're starting shit with everyone in there because you're belligerent.
Yeah.
And then you're, at the time, pregnant wife.
Yeah.
Standing there like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about any of this.
Yeah.
Get control of your freaking man. Like, there's no excuse for this. Like, I'm not saying that one of y'all has to be in control of the other. But, like, if you know that he's going to act like this, don't let him go somewhere. Yeah. Don't let him do this. Or get him out of here before he gets to this point.
Right. I don't know. A part of me feels bad for her because I don't think she knew what she was getting into.
But she stayed.
She stayed.
So.
And I know if he treated me like that, he's definitely treating her like that. As I didn't live with him. I didn't live with him.
For sure. But this is the same person who we were told apparently likes that kind of stuff because she was known for having trains ran on her. So
yeah. But I don't know if any of that's true.
This is true.
I don't know if anything he ever told me about her is true.
You know, because we were told at work that he was dating this girl that worked in the building next to us and was just so in love and all this. And it turns out it wasn't a girl that worked next to us. It was one of the other men that worked with us.
Yeah.
So, again, all this said to say, this jackass is running for office.
Yeah.
He is running for Congress. Please research your people that you're voting for before you vote for them.
Yeah.
Please, that's
because they could be a full-blown narcissist, which, I mean, if you ask me, most politicians are.
Well, this is true. And I mean, it makes sense that he's going for Congress.
That's what the other lady I work for said. She was like,
It makes sense.
He is slimy enough. That seems right.
It makes sense.
Also, his new job, I'm not going to say what it is, but I can't believe it. Did they not do background checks? Because there ain't no way. There ain't no way.
How far into with this are we? And we haven't even got
probably an hour. 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
But I could tell more stories if anybody's interested.
Just let us know.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it, because this was an interesting topic that I was quite excited about, and we're going to dig deeper into things like this.
Of all things, we're going to do nursery rhymes after all that.
We're going to dig deeper into things like this in future episodes, and I'm super excited about it. But we are talking about the stories behind, the history behind different nursery rhymes and fairy tale type things.
Also, this brings me to my other hot take.
Oh my gosh.
I wrote, I would like to state for the record that my notes for the nursery rhyme episode came back with 82% originality for the parts that I did have to write. You bet. As soon as we hung up, I was like, Now, I did reword a few few sentences just because I just didn't like the way they sounded. Because I did skim over it and I was like, is this word for word?
I'm telling you, when I Googled, when I hit that link that you used and then compared, I was like, this is word for word.
Things are hard to reword. But I was like, I know how to write.
All right. So, you going to start us off?
Sure. And I'm going to start us off with 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice. See how they run. See how they run. They ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life as 3 blind mice? So, this one, in Britain during the 17th century, the Protestants and the Catholics did not get along at all. And the 3 blind mice were 3 Protestant loyalists who were accused of plotting against the Catholic Queen Mary I. She was also known as Bloody Mary because of the massacres of Protestants that were carried out in her name. But I've recently been looking for like more podcast topics, and there's a lot of TikToks with like just weird facts about stuff, and I'll save them and write them down so I can like further research those stories to make sure if they're even true. If I want to,
it's getting further and further.
It probably does. It keeps sliding around. I've got a new rug on the way. Okay. This one's too slippy.
Anyway, continue.
But anyway, so after a little bit more research with the help of those, like she really didn't earn that name, Bloody Mary. Because, like, Henry VIII killed way more people than she did. Including most of his wives. So, the Loyalists were also called the Oxford Martyrs. And it was Ridley, Latimer, and Cranmer. In the story, Queen Mary is the farmer's wife. And their blindness refers to their Protestant beliefs. That said, she didn't cut off the tails of the 3 Protestant plotters, but instead she had them burned at the stake.
All right.
Fun times. I'm glad I didn't live then. I'm like now. I'm comfortable.
Right.
I get to eat my snacks, have my Hershey bars, and not have to worry about getting my head cut off.
Right.
By some lady who's upset with me.
Well, we're going to revisit Mary with Mary, Mary, quite contrary.
I almost did this one, but I was like, no, I'll leave it.
So, Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row. As Brittany mentioned, Queen Mary I was also called Bloody Mary, but she was murderous enough that she may have been immortalized in several nursery rhymes. Although there are competing theories about this rhyme, one holds that it is about Queen Mary's favorite pastime, killing Protestants.
Yeah. I want to say her number was like in 70,000 range, which is still a lot. Don't get me wrong.
The silver bells and cockle shells refer to instruments of torture. Ooh. The pretty maids would be that efficient new instrument for cutting off heads, the guillotine.
The guillotine.
To many, this little ditty has a meaning relating to something religious. To others, it's about governorship or even fertility. And while some think it points to historical figures in the 16th century. There is no proof of the nursery rhyme being sung prior to the 18th century. As I read above, or what I read above, is the most common version of the lyric today, yet there are other versions that have popped up in history as well. Much like anything, it's going to change throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the oldest known version of the rhyme was published in Tommy Thumb's Pretty Songbook in 1744, and that rhyme goes like this. Mistress Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells, and so my garden grows. Other versions, such as this from the 18th century, Mistress Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells, sing cuckolds in a row. First of all, I read that, and I've been watching too much Shane Dawson podcast, and all I could think of was cuck.
A man sitting in a chair watching.
And even with more accepted versions, the last line has been changed throughout time. Such alternate rhymes include cowslips in a row and with lady bells all in a row. But for clarification, cockle. A cockle is a bivalve mollusk that resides on sandy, sheltered beaches throughout the world. And a cuckold is understood as either a husband with an adulterous wife, or in biology terminology, a male who takes care of children who are not genetically his. And a cowslip is a type of flowering plant. So now we understand why cuck is what cuck is.
Yeah.
But and if you don't know what cuck is, careful Googling that. Don't do it.
Be careful. Look up
NSFW.
Just look up the Urban Dictionary.
Or just watch Shane Dawson's podcast.
That too.
We'll throw that out there. I mean, it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
As noted, the meaning of the nursery rhyme is truly unknown. It's vague enough to offer many interpretations, and due to its variations in ending lines and verbiage, there are many ways to understand the history of the meaning, as well as the meaning itself. For example, some say Mary refers to Jesus' mother, and thus the rhyme is about the spread of Catholicism. Others suggest the name refers to Mary the First of England, Mary Tudor, or Mary, Queen of Scots, Mary Stuart, who were both contemporaries in the 16th century, which is some 200 years before the rhyme was popularized. Perhaps the rhyme points to all these people and their commonalities, but maybe the most important part of the rhyme is the idea of the garden. For any bit of the song to stick around for hundreds of years, there likely has to be many applications and interpretations. One meaning doesn't tend to stick in history, but several have a better chance. Therefore, the garden growing may mean some idea of fertility. How does Mary grow her family? How does the garden of her lineage increase? Or the garden could be religion. How does the adoption of religion increase and spread?
That makes sense.
Right. But what about Mary being contrary? When someone is contrary, they go against the grain. Therefore, the rhyme may be wandering aloud. How does someone go against the grain expect to also grow their philosophy or family? With pretty flowers and seashells. That's how.
Yeah.
And with men, cuckolds, who will watch over those children or those religious theologies.
Your mic looks like a bomb pop right now. I was changing. Never mind.
And with men who watch over those children or the religious theologies that weren't theirs originally, but are theirs now. Indeed, perhaps the rhyme is about a strong woman who gets things done. Some believe the bells in the rhyme represents the Sanctus bells, and that the cockle shells are the badges of the pilgrims to the shrine of St. James in Spain. The pretty maids are the nuns. Another theory is that it wonders how Queen Mary, Queen of Scots, reign grows, and the silver bells are her cathedral bells. The cockle shells are implying that her husband was not faithful, and the pretty maids, all in a row, are her ladies in waiting. Or, if Mary is Mary the First of England, then the question arises about her heirs. and that she is quite contrary is a reference to her unsuccessful attempt to reverse changes by her father and brother, and the pretty maids are a reference to miscarriages. But in reality, these many meanings are likely superimposed after the fact.
Yeah.
But today, more likely the rhyme is about feminine growth of some sort, which is a fundamental, crucial part of human existence. The species is furthered by women who give birth to more, and therefore wisdom and governance and anything else that comes from humanity. And this is and it is the thoughtful women, the contrarians. I'm offended. Not all women are contrary, and that's the way that makes me feel it's trying to say. They are perhaps are best at that, and in the end, who lead us in the future. Adorned with beautiful things, women make life possible, and there are more in waiting, thankfully. So let's never forget that.
Yeah.
That's all I have for that. That went deep.
That was. I like that. Two things. First thing, I think I got all worked up the first part of this episode. My face is all hot.
Did you see me take my sweatshirt off and then almost immediately put it back on? I was like, I'm hot. And then I was like, no, I'm not hot. I'm kind of cold. Let's put it back on. And then for a second, I was like, I'm putting my shoes back on because my feet are cold now, but I didn't.
Second thing. So I got you that car today. I got me a Cheshire Cat one. It looks like he's giving the finger.
It does. Where did I put it?
I don't know.
In my bag. She got me a little Hot Wheels car that's from the movie Up, which is cute, and I'm excited about it. But
I think the back of that truck's got balloons all in it.
It does.
It's cute.
I have a tattoo from the movie Up. It's the bunch of balloons, but it's shaped in the shape of Mickey Mouse's head, and it's attached to a cane with the little tennis balls on the bottom, like in the movie. But it's relevant because I just bought a $45 Funko Pop of Carl and Ellie this past weekend, and it's one of those things where that was money I should not have spent, but I never buy anything for myself, especially things that are pretty much useless and are just going to sit there and collect dust. But hey, whatever.
Not me looking around the office like all my shit sitting around.
With how many Funkos sitting here, and there's one on the kitchen table.
Yeah, that one's going in the guest bedroom, though. That goes with the Harry Potter collection.
Oh, well, I didn't mean to just touch you with my foot.
Ew, don't touch me with your feet.
Anyway, continue on.
Ring around the rosy. A pocket full of posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
I was so excited that you did this one because we all know this one.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's still exciting every time I hear it.
Right. So when I was a kid in elementary school, and maybe even a little older than that, but probably not. I think by the time I got to middle school, I was like, this is for losers. Anyway.
This is for babies.
So when I was a kid in elementary school, my friends and I would hold hands and skip while running in a circle, singing this little tune. At the end of the song, we would all let go and fall back into the grass of the playground. And I think everyone who isn't living under a rock or wasn't living under a rock during the 90s and earlier that believe this little ditty is about the Black Plague. I don't know. Do your kids do that?
I don't know that I have ever paid attention enough, when they sing nursery rhymes and stuff like I've never seen my kids join hands with other kids and do that. But I don't.
Because I was like, I don't know that that's really too much of a thing anymore.
I started to say, I couldn't tell you if my kids even know the words. Nursery rhymes are not a thing for kids anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's nursery rhymes that you're going to hear on kids shows,
it's
Cocomelon and things.
Yeah. Ugh. So
what's
according
that woman one, Miss
Rachel.
Yes.
According to dictionary.com. This interpretation correlates the rosy rings with the red circular rashes that were symptoms of the plague, and the pocket full of posies with an herbal treatment to deter the terrible ailment. I always heard that the ashes part was because of all of the dead, and we all fall down was symbolizing people dying. The morbidity in many of the nursery rhymes that we all know and love is quite alarming, and honestly probably explains why most of the population, particularly millennials, harbors a dark sense of humor. That said, folklorists and historical linguists do not believe that that is where the rhyme originated because it did not appear in print until the late 1800s, which was hundreds of years after the plague ended. There is also no known reference that would tie the roses to being a symbol of any symptoms of the plague. And it is the general consensus of those folklorists and historians that this dark nursery rhyme has a fictional history and is only a silly children's rhyme.
So there's a lady on TikTok that does a lot of these dark meanings behind nursery rhymes. Mackenzie Barman. And she has done one on this one. Will we be in trouble for copyright infringement or anything if I let it play?
Probably not, because if anything, we just wouldn't monetize this episode later down the line.
So it's a TikTok. I'm gonna let the audio play. I love her, but it's her talking to herself, basically.
Yeah.
And some of you may know who I'm talking about. But I love watching her stuff.
Ring around the rosy, pockets full of posy. You know what that song is about?
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, it's like the kids are having fun. They're dancing. You know what was happening in the 1300s? What? What was happening in the 1300s? Do you know what was going on during that time? I think the Black Plague. Yeah. Okay, I don't understand what that has to do with our song. Ashes, ashes. We all fall down. Yeah. Ring around the rosy pocket full of posies. Where do you do this?
I love how the other me is always crying.
Right. She's like, why are you gonna be like that? But yeah, that's...
I do. I love her.
I love watching her videos. She's got some good stuff, so look her up on the TikToks.
Yeah. And also too, the plague didn't just end in the 1300s.
Right.
I watched a documentary not too long ago on YouTube that was in the early or late 1800s, early 1900s, the city of San Francisco, could not get their shit together as far as the plague. They had the plague and, could not get rid of it.
Right.
And they had, this really intense, rat population. And then there was this one guy in particular that was called in from Pennsylvania, and he cleaned up all the rats. And would dissect them to study, why they were transmitting all of the plague. And then there was an earthquake, the earthquake of San Francisco, that destroyed the whole city, and people were just barely scraping by, and the rats got worse again, so he had to come back. And then I don't know, something else happened, and then all the rats came back again, and he went out for a final third time, and the rats, he finally got them totally eradicated, and the Black Plague has not been a problem since.
Nice. Well, I had also heard a version of that saying that, as far as the ring around the rosy, the ashes part, we all fall down, was with the plague, they were having to burn the bodies. And I think I actually even heard it as being well, no, that's something else. Anyway, it was they were burning mass amounts of bodies at one time, and so the ashes, we all fall down, were the ashes of these burning bodies falling down.
I could see that.
That always made my skin crawl, because I'm just picturing these little kids.
But there's also tons of mass graves too, all over Europe, that are plague victims.
Right. All right, so my next one, brace yourself. London Bridge is falling down.
Ooh.
Falling down.
Okay.
Falling down.
Go ahead.
London Bridge is falling down. My fair lady. Off to prison. You must go. You must go. You must go. Off to prison. You must go. My fair lady.
That's ooky spooky.
Right.
We never sung the second verse.
I know. I read that and I was I didn't know that existed.
Okay, maybe this is a fever dream I had, but I very distinctly remember us being taught in primary school I don't know if it was in music class or where we would have learned it, because there was a few of us like in my classes that like knew, but I just have this distinct memory of like, because I would brag about it. Everybody I knew about it because I could sing London Bridge in French.
I don't remember.
Is that a fever dream I had?
Maybe.
Well, I've like recently been like, what does that even sound like? Because like I can hear it like in my head.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. So I listened to it recently. I was like, I've never heard that in my life. And I was like, what is that? I was like, do I just like has that part of it just gone? But yeah, I used to be like, listen to this. I know London Bridge in French, and I'd sing it. And then go about my way on the playground.
All right. So the English nursery rhyme, London Bridge is Falling Down, seems innocent on the surface and with such a cheery tune. But some scholars believe it's a reference to a form of imprisonment called live entombment, where someone would get locked into a room or enclosed into a space of some kind until they die. So that literally, like, I read that, and all I could think about, which I know you're not going to really get, is the head garden in the originals, where, like, a lot of times what they would do...
You're right, I don't get it.
Right, in the show originals, and they may have even done it in the Vampire Diaries, where they would, like... I know they did it in the Vampire Diaries, where they would, like, lock these vampires into these, be it, like, a spell, or, you know, just, like, completely deplete them of all their energy or whatever, so that they couldn't break out of whatever they're in, and they would just desiccate. Anyway... Many of us are so familiar with the nursery rhyme that we could sing it in our sleep. We remember playing the London Bridge game in the schoolyard with our friends, chanting the tune and trying not to get caught as the arch fell down. While the tune of this classic nursery rhyme sounds playful, and the game may appear innocent, there are some sinister theories about where it originated from and what it's really about. And that's what we're here for. So... what is the true meaning of London Bridge? Let me just lay some possibilities out for you. While the song was first published as a nursery rhyme in the 1850s, many experts believe that London Bridge is Falling Down dates back to the medieval era, and possibly even before that. According to the Oxford Dictionary of Nursery Rhymes, similar rhymes have been found across Europe in places such as Germany, where they sing, and bear with me because there's a couple of these and I did my best to try and break them down so I could pronounce them correctly, but I'm not German, nor do I speak Danish or French. But in Germany they sing Die Magdeburger Brücke, meaning the bridge from Magdeburg. And Denmark's, and I'll tell you why I'm giggling in a second. Nippelsbro gar op Ogned.
Stop it.
So when I tried to Google how to pronounce the word Knippelsbro, I said from Danish to English, and it literally said Nippelsbro.
Stop.
Anyway, that one means nipples bro goes up and down. And France's Punchu, meaning Shoes Bridge. It wasn't until 1657 that the rhyme was first referenced in England during the comedy The London Chanticleers, and the full rhyme wasn't published until 1744 when it made its debut in Tommy Thumb's Pretty Songbook. The lyrics back then were very different from what we hear today. London Bridge is broken down. Dance over my Lady Lee. London Bridge is broken down with the gay lady. A melody for the rhyme was noted a bit earlier for an edition of The Dancing Master in 1718, but it has a different tune than the modern version that we now know, as well as no recorded lyrics. As this vague history shows, the actual author of the rhyme still remains a mystery. This is another one that has been debated by historians and other experts. However, the most commonly accepted origin story for that rhyme is that of the London Bridge actually falling down in 1014, because Viking leader Olaf Haraldsson allegedly pulled it down during an invasion of the British Isles, which, Viking had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
I know that whole story. Though the reality of that attack has never been proven, the tale of it inspired a collection of Old Norse poems written in 1230 containing a verse that sounds close to this nursery rhyme. It translates to, London Bridge is broken down, gold is won in bright renown. But that wasn't the only event that could have inspired the London Bridge rhyme. Part of the bridge was damaged in 1281 due to ice damage, and it was weakened by multiple fires in the 1600s, including the Great Fire of London in 1666. Despite all of its structural failures, the London Bridge survived for 600 years and never actually, quote-unquote, fell down, as the nursery rhyme implies. It was finally demolished in 1831 because it was just cheaper to replace it than it was to fix it. One dark theory behind the bridge's longevity maintains that there were bodies encased in its moorings. The author of the book, The Traditional Games of England, Scotland, and Ireland, Alice Bertha Gaume, suggests that the origin of the London Bridge is falling down refers to the use of medieval punishment known as immurement, which is the entombment. Immurement was a form of punishment as well as a form of sacrifice. Gaume points to the lyric, "Take the key and lock her up," as a nod to this inhumane practice and the belief that the sacrifices may have been children. According to her, people during those times believed that the bridge would collapse if there wasn't a body buried inside. Thankfully, this disturbing suggestion has never been proven, and there is no archaeological evidence that suggests it's true. In addition to the mystery behind London Bridge, there's also the matter of the Fair Lady. Some believe that it might be the Virgin Mary, because why not? We're just going to throw religion in everything.
Right.
As part of the theory that the rhyme is a reference to a centuries-old Viking attack. Supposedly, the attack happened on September 8th, the date when the Virgin Mary's birthday is traditionally celebrated. Because the Vikings were unable to take the city after they burned the London Bridge, the English claimed the Virgin Mary, or Fair Lady, protected it. A few royal consorts have also been mentioned as potential fair ladies. Eleanor of Provence was a consort of Henry III and controlled all London Bridge revenue in the late 13th century. Matilda of Scotland was a consort of Henry I, and she commissioned several bridges to be built in the early 12th century. The last potential candidate is a member of the Lee family of Stoneleigh Park in Warwickshire. This family dates back to the 17th century in England and claims that one of their own was entombed under the London Bridge as an alleged human immurement sacrifice. However, none of these ladies have ever been definitively proven to be the Fair Lady of the song. Today, London Bridge is Falling Down has become one of the most popular rhymes in the world. It's continuously referenced in literature and pop culture. Pop culture. Mm-hmm. Most notably, T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland in 1922, the My Fair Lady musical in 1956, which, by the way, been there, done the play, my favorite. And country music artist Brenda Lee's 1963 song, My Whole World is Falling Down. And, of course, the rhyme inspired the popular London Bridge game that is still played by children today. I don't think it is.
I ain't never heard of that.
Well, it's like you've got somebody in the middle and you're holding hands with somebody across from you and there's somebody in between you, like between your hands, and you're like, you've got your hands up in an arch.
Oh, yeah.
Your London Bridge is falling down, and then you try to trap them in there.
Okay.
And I go on to explain, in this game, two children link their arms to form an arch of a bridge while the other kids take turn running underneath them. They continue to run through until the singing stops, the arch falls, and someone is quote unquote trapped.
See, so that's where my specific memory is.
Right.
Is singing that in French while doing that.
The person that person that's trapped gets eliminated, and the game is repeated until there's one player left. So, I'm just here to let you know my last one I'm excited about.
Okay. Well, also, to add to that, when Queen Elizabeth the second died, her, like, the code that would be sent out to everybody is London Bridge has fallen.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
All right. So my last one, it's a long one, so settle in. This is already going to be a long episode. You got way too much personal information about me to start with.
Are you regretting a little bit? Are you?
No, it's okay. It needs. It needs to be said.
Is this one of those things where, like, later you're gonna be like, maybe we should cut that out?
No, because I didn't. It's something that needed to be said.
Okay.
It felt therapeutic. It's helpful.
See, and that's what I keep telling you guys. This podcast, if nothing else, is therapeutic for us. So honestly, thanks for being here.
If he hate listens to this, or if any of his little friends hate listen to this because they hate me now, get wrecked. You can run and tell him.
Get wrecked.
Okay.
The audacity to send me a friend request.
To message me from your wife's Facebook account.
Can I say it?
I don't know. What are you saying?
The word.
The F word?
Yeah.
I guess. Go
fuck out of here.
So my next story, which this one's not a nursery rhyme, but it is like a well-known children's story. And you had sent me a TikTok that it was a lady like telling like the origins of Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, okay.
But she just didn't go beyond that. She like
strap in because this is a long one.
It is a long one, but she basically just stopped at Grimm Brothers. But it's older than that. So the story was originally called Sun, Moon, and Talia. The first time that the story of Sleeping Beauty was put to paper was by Italian poet John Battista Basile in the 1600s. In this original, which I also want to point out, because whenever you sent me that, I remembered I was listening to the podcast Myths and Legends, and they'll sometimes like hit on like Grimm's fairy tales, and they'll tell like the story with like a spin on it or something. And I remembered hearing this, and I was like, it's older. I was like, I've heard a different version than that. So I went back and found that episode and refreshed my memory. So in this original version, there is a great lord who was blessed with a daughter whom he named Talia. Though this is a summarization of the story, it certainly won't feel like it because it's like 15 pages long. Anyway, if I have a voice after this to do these next 2 episodes, I'll be surprised. So the Lord requested all of the wise men and astrologers in his lands to come and predict his daughter's future. When they all met, they counseled together and cast her horoscope, and after some time, they all arrived to the conclusion that she would come to great danger from a splinter of flax. After hearing this, the Lord forbid any flax, hemp, or any other similar materials from his home so that she could not be harmed. After some time, Talia had grown into a beautiful young lady. And one day, she was watching out of her window when she saw an elderly woman spinning. Having never seen a spindle, Talia was impressed with the twirling and was curious as to what the item was. So she requested the older woman to come to her. When she took the distaff, which I had kind of looked that up, and I think it's like the pole part, like the handle part, from the woman's hand, she began to stretch the flax. A splinter of flax ran under Talia's fingernail and she fell dead to the ground. After the older woman witnessed this, she of course ran down the stairs, and some say she's still running. Hearing what had occurred, the Lord had her laid out in one of his country mansions. She was seated on a velvet throne under a canopy of brocade. The Lord, wanting to forget everything that had happened, closed the doors and then abandoned the house where where his daughter lay. I don't think that's the house where the tragedy happened, but that's what the source I used said, but I don't think that's the case. After some time, a king was out hunting and passed by that way. One of his falcons had escaped from him and flew right into the house through one of the windows. When it didn't come back to him when he called, the king sent one of his men to knock on the door. When no one came to the door, the king had his men bring him a vintner's ladder, which is similar to a rolling library ladder, which why you're traveling with that. I have no idea.
Right.
But
on a hunting trip.
But he used this to climb into the house and search for himself. He searched all of the rooms, nooks, and crannies of the house and found no living person inside. The last room he entered was the salon. There he found Talia, who seemed to be enchanted. He believed that she was asleep and called out to her, but she remained unconscious. And I will stop here and say that, like, if SA or anything like that is upsetting to you, I would skip ahead a few minutes. He cried aloud and beheld her charms. He felt his blood course hotly through his veins. He lifted her in his arms and carried her to a bed, where he proceeded to take advantage of the unconscious woman before him.
What the fuck?
He left her there on the bed and returned to his own kingdom and thought no more of the incident. 9 months later, Talia delivered 2 children, a boy and a girl.
How?
In them could be seen 2 rare jewels, and they were attended to by 2 fairies who had come to the palace and put them at their mother's breasts. They did not latch as expected, and instead began to suck on Talia's fingers, and one of them sucked so hard that the splinter of flax came out. And Talia awoke as if she had just been sleeping. Upon seeing her 2 precious gems, she held them to her breast, and the babies became dearer to her than her own life. Personally,
I'm so... What?
Yes. So after finding herself alone with her 2 children, she had no idea what had happened to her. But she did notice that there was a table set with food and drink, despite there being no one else in sight. In the meantime, the king remembered Talia and said that he wanted to go hunting. He returned to the palace to find her awake and with 2 cupids of beauty.
First of all, meanwhile, he was not getting it from home, or he was tired of getting what he was getting at home. So he said, "Ooh, let me just go hit up this dead lady."
Oh, it gets crazier.
Oh my God, I'm not ready.
He was overjoyed and told her who he was and how he found her and what had occurred between the 2 of them. When she heard this, their friendship was only made stronger, and he remained with her for a few days.
Mental illness.
Afterward, he bade her farewell with the promise to return soon and take her back with him to his kingdom. Back to his realm he went, but he could not rest. He would spend all hours of the night and day saying the names of Talia and of Sun and Moon, their 2 children. When he did finally take his rest, he would call out either one or the other of them. But the king was not a single man, and due to his long absence, his wife became suspicious, particularly due to hearing him repeat the names Talia, Sun, and Moon continuously. This caused her to become full of anger.
Cut it off.
Oh, way worse. She does way worse.
Okay.
The queen sent for the secretary and said to him, "Listen to me, my son. You are living between 2 rocks, between the post and the door, between the poker and the grate. If you will tell me with whom the king, your master, is in love, I will give you treasures untold. And if you hide the truth from me, you will never be found again, dead or alive."
Oh.
This obviously frightened the man, and he was blinded by not only his fear, but also his greed, and he related to her all of the things.
Oh.
After hearing all of the details, the queen sent the secretary to Talia, in the name of the king, asking that she send the children because he wanted to see them. And with great joy, Talia did so.
She just offered her kids up? Did she go with?
Not this time.
Oh my God.
But she thought, she didn't know he had
I've never heard this story, if it's not obvious, and I'm invested, but also very upset with this whole situation.
Oh,
and done.
It gets more upsetting.
Oh my God. I can't. I cannot.
So yeah, she didn't know the queen existed. She thought, she's been asleep for how many years? So
First
she just
of all,
trusted this
she
man.
just labored 2 children in her sleep and didn't get to, quote unquote, enjoy the labors of birth
No.
Jealous.
So once they arrived to the castle, the queen commanded the cook to kill them and to make them into several tasty dishes for her betrayer of a husband. The cook, though, was too tender-hearted for this, and after seeing these two beautiful children, felt pity and compassion for them and carried them home to his wife for her to hide.
This is the part of the story I know.
Instead, the cook prepared 2 lambs into 100 different dishes, and when the king came, the queen, with great pleasure, had the food served. The king, with delight, would say things like, "By the life of Lanfusa, how tasteful is this?" Or, "By the soul of my ancestors, this is good." And each time the king said this, the queen would reply, "Eat, eat, you are eating your own." At first, the king paid her no mind, but after noticing this repetition, he answered, "I know perfectly well that I am eating of my own, because you have brought nothing into this house."
Oh, shit.
Growing angry, he got up and went to a villa that was a distance from his palace to find solace and alleviate his anger. Not yet satisfied, the queen sent the secretary and told him to go and bring Talia back, saying that the king longed for her presence and was expecting her. Upon hearing this, Talia departed, believing that she was following the commands of her lord, and she so greatly longed to see her light and joy. Talia was met at the palace by the queen, whose face seemed to be glowing from the fierce fire that burned inside of her. She addressed to Talia, "Welcome, Madam Busybody. You are a fine piece of goods, you ill weed, who are enjoying my husband. So you are the lump of filth, the cruel bitch that has caused my head to spin. Change your ways, for you are welcome in purgatory, where I will compensate you for all the damage you have done to me." Hearing these words, Talia began to excuse herself and said that it was not her fault. The king had taken possession of her territory when she was drowned in sleep. The queen would not hear any of this and had a large fire lit in the courtyard and commanded that Talia be cast into it.
Taken possession of her territory.
Yeah. That's a very nice way to say you were
that's
assaulted.
Just the way we're going to say it from here on out.
So,
yes, please come take possession of my territory.
Talia, perceiving that matters had taken a bad turn, knelt before the queen and begged her to allow her to at least take off the garments that she wore. The queen had no pity for the unhappy woman, or for the unhappy lady, but wanted to also gain those robes which were embroidered with gold and pearls. Told her to undress, saying, "You can take off your clothes. I agree." Talia began to disrobe, and with every piece of clothing she removed, she uttered a loud scream. After removing the very last garment, she uttered a final scream that was louder than all the rest. She was dragged towards the pile in order to reduce her to ashes. Suddenly the king appeared, and upon finding this spectacle, demanded to know what was going on. He asked for his children, and his wife told him that she had them slaughtered and served to him as meat. When the king heard this, he gave himself up to despair, saying, "Alas, then I myself am the wolf of my own sweet lambs. Alas, and why did these my veins know not the fountains of their own blood? You renegade bitch, what evil deed is this which you have done? Begone, you shall get your dessert as the stumps, and I will not send such a tyrant-faced one to the Colosseum to do her penance." Some of that made no sense to me as I was reading it, so I hope that's the way it was written, because I quoted it directly. After this, he commanded that the queen shall be cast into the fire which she had prepared for Talia, and commanded that the secretary be sent in with her.
Yes.
He was going to do the same with the cook, whom he believed had killed his children. However, when the man was before him, he knelt at the king's feet and said, "In truth, my lord, for such a deed, there should be nothing else than a pile of living fire, and no other help than a spear from behind, and no other entertainment than twisting and turning within the blazing fire. And I should seek no other honor than to have my ashes, the ashes of a cook, mixed with the queen's. but this is not the reward I expect for having saved the children, in spite of the gall of that bitch who wanted to kill them and to return to your lady or your body that which was of your own body." Hearing these words, the king was beside himself and believed that he was dreaming. He turned to the cook and said, "If it is true that you have saved my children, be sure that I will take you away from turning the spit, and I will put you in the kitchen of this breast to turn and twist as you like all my desires, giving you such a reward as shall enable you to call yourself a happy man in this world." Keep in mind, this was written in the 1600s. As the king spoke these words, the cook's wife, knowing of her husband's need, brought the two children, Sun and Moon, to their father. He never tired of playing the game of three with his wife and children, making a mill wheel of kisses with one and then the other. He gave the cook a generous reward and made him a chamberlain. He married Talia, and she was able to enjoy a long life with her husband and children. She was able to experience the proverb, those whom fortune favors find good luck in their sleep.
Ew.
So basically, if you get raped while unconscious and have a baby, could be a king's baby, and his wife might try to kill you and your children, but you'll get to live happily ever after in the end.
Okay, so that story was like a roller coaster because, like, I am disgusted at the king's actions.
Absolutely.
But very happy that the cook did the right thing. Angry with the queen that's what she chose to be the punishment. But
she totally could have handled that differently.
But also, I mean, yeah, it totally should have been handled differently. But, like, good on her for speaking her piece to this woman that really didn't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
I mean, roller coaster. I don't know. I'm so mind fucked.
I still have 5 pages left.
Oh my God.
So depending on which century or which country you look into, there are many different versions of the tale of Sleeping Beauty. The Charles Perrault version, titled The Sleeping Beauty in the Wood, is quite similar to the Brothers Grimm version, in which a king and queen, or former king and queen, are childless and finally have a daughter. Fairies bring her gifts, and one fairy is really upset about not being invited. In the Grimm version, this fairy curses the child to prick her finger with a spindle when she is in her 15th year, and she will fall over dead. But the 12th fairy, who had not yet offered a wish to the child, said it will not be her death. She will only fall into 100-year sleep. The king issued a ban on spindles and ordered them destroyed. But one day, the king and queen were away and left the princess to her own devices. And she explored the castle and found a narrow stairway that led to an old tower. She arrived at a door with a small yellow key in the lock, and she turned it, and the door just sprang open. She found a small room with an older woman spinning flax. Now, if this lady was locked in this room, food, toilet, or a piss pot, whatever you got, where is it? Is this lady just here?
Right.
She talked with the woman for some time and then decided that she wished to try her hand at spinning. No sooner did she pick up the spindle, she pricked herself with it and fell down in a deep sleep. At this same moment, the king and his attendants returned to the castle, and everyone began to fall asleep, from the horses in the stalls, the pigeons on the roof, and the flies on the walls. Even the fire in the hearth flickered, stopped moving, and fell asleep. Everyone and everything around the palace fell asleep. Then a thorn hedge grew up around the entire castle until it was so tall that nothing could be seen. Princes would come from all over and try to free the beautiful briar rose, but none could penetrate the hedge, and they were all met with their death, as the thorns would firmly attach to their hands and they would become stuck. And this continued for many, many years. But one day a prince was traveling through the land, and an old man told him about the castle behind the thorn hedge and the beautiful princess asleep inside. The man's grandfather had told him that many princes had tried to penetrate the hedge, but all had died. The prince stated that he was not afraid of that and declared that he would penetrate the hedge and free the beautiful Briar Rose. When he
I hate that word.
What? Penetrate?
Yeah.
When he approached, the thorns of the hedge turned to flowers, and they separated, allowing him to walk through.
Oh.
After he passed, the flowers turned back into thorns. He went into the castle and found that horses and colorful hunting dogs were asleep in the courtyard. Pigeons had their little heads stuck under their wings and were sitting on the roof. As he entered the castle itself, he noticed that even the flies on the walls, the fire in the kitchen, the cook, and the maid were all asleep. He continued further into the castle. All attendants were asleep, and he found the king and queen asleep. The entire castle was so quiet that he could hear his own breath, which, I mean, you should be able to hear that anyway, but I digress. It's unimportant. After some time, he came to the old tower where Briar Rose was sleeping. He was so amazed at her beauty that he bent over and kissed her, which, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But not as weird as the last one.
Right.
She instantly awoke, and along with her, the rest of the palace. The prince and Briar Rose were married and lived long and happily until they died. I would love to go on about the different versions of this same story, but if you're interested, one of my previous sources, which I'll specifically label before in the episode notes, they have all of the different iterations of this story of Sleeping Beauty. Thoughts? Any?
I mean, I knew Sleeping Beauty, but like I'd never heard that other version of it, and I'm still just.
Yeah, when I was listening to that on that other podcast, I was like, "This is messed up."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, all right. So my last one. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
Ooh, I love a good Humpty Dumpty.
Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Chances are, you wouldn't be able to find a kid over the age of 6 that doesn't know this one. It's been around for centuries, but just like anything else, it too has changed a fair amount. What I just recited was what we all know and love, but from what I can see, it's vastly different than what it started as. What we know is most likely how it was published in the 1810 in 1810 as part of Joseph Ritson's work entitled Gammer Gurton's Garland. But, as you may have guessed it, the meaning is quite different than what it sounds. Now, and I know I've questioned this on many occasion. Have you ever questioned why is Humpty depicted as an egg?
I feel like I know this story, but I've forgotten it.
Well, there's no reference to an egg in the story, and there's nothing that indicates that he even looked like the shape of one either.
No.
But you can thank Lewis Carroll for this. His book, Through the Looking Glass, features many unusual characters, including one that is a human-like egg that goes by the name Humpty Dumpty. As the book explains, however, the egg only got larger and larger and more human. When she had come within a few yards of it, she saw that it had eyes and a nose and mouth. And when she had come close to it, she saw clearly that it was Humpty Dumpty himself. It can't be anybody else, she said to herself. I'm as certain of it as if his name were written all over his face. Now, that is all we can think about when we hear this rhyme now. But we know that it's not what the originator of this rhyme was thinking of, as this was penned over 50 years before Through the Looking Glass came about.
No.
So this egg is not what they had in mind.
Right.
It honestly was something a little darker. Per historians, Humpty Dumpty was a military cannon. Back in 1648, when the English Civil War was coming to a close, King Charles I had his men station several cannons along the walls of Colchester in an attempt to hold off the Parliamentary Army. One of these cannons was nicknamed Humpty Dumpty. The cannon shot off its fair share of artillery atop this wall. This caused this portion of the wall to become very weak and unable to support the weight of the cannon any longer. So, Humpty Dumpty the cannon tumbled to the ground and was smashed into several pieces. It was inoperable. The damage was too severe. It was inoperable, and the king's army would lose the war the following year. I've said all of this to say this story was never confirmed as true, as the true inspiration, but it does sound pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah. I like it.
I like it. I've always wondered why Humpty was an egg.
Just because Lewis Carroll said so.
Right?
I've got the nonprofit of the week.
Yes.
And due to the nature of my story, I chose Futures Without Violence. Futures Without Violence is a health and social justice nonprofit with a simple mission: to heal those among us who are traumatized by violence today and to create healthy families and communities free of violence tomorrow.
See, like, our little tirade at the beginning of this was very relevant.
Yeah. Who knew when I picked this? From domestic violence and child abuse to bullying and sexual assault, our groundbreaking programs, policy development, and public action campaigns are designed to prevent and end violence against women and children around the world. Striving to reach new audiences and transform social norms, we train professionals such as doctors, nurses, judges, and athletic coaches on improving responses to violence and abuse. We also work with advocates, policymakers, and others to build sustainable community leadership and educate people everywhere about the importance of respect and healthy relationships. And as always, I will leave a link to donate directly to that organization should you feel called to do that.
Well, all right. Thanks for coming to another week.
Thanks for coming to our TED Talk.
Right. This was quite a long episode.
Very.
It was a good one.
It's no longer than like normal episodes. If we hadn't have done that 40 minutes,
this would have been a short episode.
It would have been a short episode.
Well,
it's still maybe about an hour, but
if nothing else, this episode was slightly therapeutic.
Yes. Made me feel better.
So, but
I'm still scared, though. I'm not going to lie. It's been 4 years. I'm still low-key scared, but
there's nothing to be scared of.
I know. I don't know. I just don't like confrontation.
Right.
I don't like it.
But, well, when you're done listening to this episode, make sure that you are casting your social circle and following us on I almost said the Amazon.
We do have an Amazon wish list.
We do have an Amazon wish list. It's still active. Follow us on the Facebook,
Instagram,
TikTok,
X.
Email us at wanderersofweird@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah. And give you that raspy cigarette voice. Where my voice is starting to go. My throat's going to hurt so bad tomorrow.
Hey, whatever. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.